Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding out that the financial system you've trusted your entire life was never designed to make you wealthy. Sounds crazy, right? After all, banks tell us to save money, schools tell us to save money, parents tell us to save money, and for decades, millions of people have followed that advice. They work hard, they deposit their paychecks, they keep their money in the bank, and they believe they're doing everything right. But here's the uncomfortable question. If the system works so well, why are so many people still struggling financially? Why do millions of Americans live paycheck to paycheck? Why are credit card debts hitting record highs? And why does it seem like the people who understand money the best play by a completely different set of rules? Because what most people don't realize is that banks make money when your money sits still, but wealthy people make money when money moves, and that single difference changes everything. Now, before we go further, let me be clear. Banks are not evil. Banks are important. Without banks, the modern economy wouldn't function. But banks are businesses, and every business has one goal: to make a profit. The question is, how do they make that profit? Because once you understand that answer, you'll never look at your bank account the same way again. Here's something most people never think about. When you deposit $10,000 into a bank account, that money doesn't just sit there waiting for you. The bank puts that money to work. They lend it, they invest it, they use it to generate more money. In other words, your money starts working the moment it enters the system. The strange part, most people never learn to make their own money work the same way, and that's where the gap between average people and wealthy people begins. But this is only the surface, because the real reason many people stay financially stuck isn't what banks are doing, it's what people have been trained to believe about money since childhood. And once you see that hidden belief, you'll start noticing it everywhere. In schools, in advertisements, even in everyday financial advice. And that's where things get really interesting, because the next lesson might be the most expensive money mistake the average person makes for their entire life.
Let's start with one of the biggest financial myths ever created: the idea that saving money alone will make you wealthy. Now, don't get me wrong, saving money is important. Everyone should have an emergency fund. Everyone should have financial discipline. But here's where most people get stuck. They spend their entire lives focusing on saving money, while wealthy people focus on growing money. And those are two completely different games. Imagine you save $100. Great, you now have $100. But what happens if prices rise? What happens when inflation quietly makes everything more expensive? Suddenly, that same $100 buys less than it did before. And that's exactly what's been happening for years. Most people think they're moving forward financially, when in reality, they're running on a treadmill, working harder, saving harder, but barely getting ahead. Now here's where things get interesting. The wealthy understand something that most people never learn. Money has two jobs. The first job is spending. The second job is producing more money. Average people usually stop at the first job. Rich people become obsessed with the second one. When they receive money, they immediately start asking a different question. Not, what can I buy, but how can this money produce more money? That's a completely different mindset. And mindset eventually becomes behavior. Behavior becomes habits, and habits become wealth. This is why two people can earn the exact same income, yet end up in completely different financial situations 10 years later. One person sees every dollar as spending power. The other sees every dollar as an employee, working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without taking a vacation. But here's the part most people never notice. The financial system actually rewards people who already understand this game. And that's why wealth often grows faster for wealthy people. It's not always because they're smarter. It's because they know how to position money. Think about it. If someone has $10, a 10% return earns them $1. But if someone has $10 million, that same 10% return earns them $1 million. Same percentage, completely different outcome. And that's when many people start asking a dangerous question. Is the system unfair? The answer is more complicated than most people think, because the real problem isn't only the system. The real problem is that most people were never taught the rules. They entered the game without knowing how the game works. And schools rarely teach it. Advertisements definitely don't teach it. And social media often teaches the exact opposite. Which leads to another expensive mistake. A mistake that quietly destroys wealth before it has a chance to grow. And chances are, you've probably made it yourself without realizing it.
Let's talk about the mistake that keeps millions of people financially stuck. And no, it's not being lazy. It's not being unintelligent. And it's not because people don't work hard. In fact, many financially struggling people work harder than wealthy people. The real problem is something psychologists call lifestyle inflation. Here's how it works. You get a raise, your income goes up, and almost immediately your expenses go up too. A better phone, a bigger apartment, a newer car, more subscriptions, more monthly payments, more things to maintain. And before you know it, you're earning more than ever before, but somehow you still feel broke. Sound familiar? That's because most people upgrade their lifestyle faster than they upgrade their assets, and that single habit quietly destroys wealth. Now, here's something fascinating. The human brain is incredibly good at adapting. The car you dreamed about 6 months ago feels normal after a few weeks. The expensive watch feels ordinary after a month. The luxury purchase that made you excited eventually becomes part of the background. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. You keep running, you keep buying, you keep upgrading, but your happiness keeps returning to the same baseline. Which means many people spend their entire lives chasing feelings that never last. And the financial industry understands this extremely well. Every day you're surrounded by messages designed to make you want more. Advertisements, influencers, luxury brands, social media feeds. Everyone is showing you what to buy next. Very few people are teaching you what to own next. And that's a massive difference. Because liabilities take money out of your pocket. Assets put money into your pocket. Yet most people spend years collecting liabilities while believing they're building wealth. Now, think about this. 2 people receive the exact same bonus. The first person buys something impressive. The second person buys something productive. 5 years later, one purchase is worth almost nothing. The other purchase may still be producing income. Same money, different decision, completely different future. And this is where banks, lenders, and credit card companies become extremely powerful, because they understand human psychology. They know people want things today, even if they can't afford them yet. That's why credit is so attractive. You get the reward immediately, and the pain arrives later. The problem? Eventually, later becomes now, and that's when many people find themselves trapped in monthly payments they no longer comfortably afford. But here's the twist. The wealthy use debt too, sometimes even more than everyone else. So if debt causes financial problems, why do wealthy people willingly borrow money? And more importantly, why does the exact same financial tool make one person richer while making another person poorer? Because the answer has nothing to do with debt itself. It has everything to do with how debt is being used. And once you understand that distinction, you'll start looking at money very differently. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine 2 friends. Both are 25 years old. Both want to become financially free. The first friend starts investing today. Just a small amount every month. Nothing dramatic, nothing exciting. Just consistency. The second friend decides to wait. He wants a better job first, a higher salary, a bigger opportunity. He tells himself he will start later. 5 years pass, then 10. Life gets busy, other expenses appear, and investing keeps getting delayed. Now here is where things get interesting. The first friend was not smarter, he was not richer, he did not discover a secret investment. He simply started earlier. And that small difference changes everything. Because money follows a strange rule. The more time it has, the harder it works. A single dollar invested today can grow, Then the growth starts growing too. Then the growth of the growth starts growing. This process continues for years, and eventually the results look unbelievable. That is why wealthy people are obsessed with time, not because they have more of it, but because they understand its value. Most people focus on how much money they can make. Wealthy people focus on how long their money can work. That shift changes the entire game. And this is where many people make a costly mistake. They believe investing is about finding the perfect stock, the perfect business, the perfect opportunity. But history shows something different. The biggest advantage is often not picking better investments, it's staying invested longer. That is why patience creates wealth, while impatience destroys it. And there is another psychological trap that quietly hurts millions of people. A trap that feels harmless, a trap that almost everyone falls into. It's called lifestyle inflation. And once you see it, you'll start noticing it everywhere.
Most people think wealth is about making more money. But that is not true, because thousands of people earn six figures and still stay broke. At the same time, some people earn less yet become financially free. So what creates the difference? The answer is hidden in one simple habit. Most people spend money before they think. Wealthy people think before they spend. That sounds obvious, but the psychological difference is massive. Every purchase is actually a vote for your future or a vote against it. When someone receives extra income, they often reward themselves immediately. A better phone, a bigger car payment, more subscriptions, more lifestyle upgrades. And slowly, the income grows, but expenses grow even faster. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it quietly destroys wealth. The dangerous part, most people don't even notice it happening, because every upgrade feels small until years pass and they realize nothing meaningful was built. No assets, no investments, no freedom, just bigger bills. Now compare that with how wealthy people often behave. When income increases, their first question is different. They ask, how can I turn this money into an asset, not what can I buy? That single question changes everything. Because assets work while you sleep. Assets work while you're traveling. Assets work while you're spending time with family. Assets create leverage, and leverage creates wealth. This is why many millionaires appear surprisingly ordinary. They are not trying to look rich, they are trying to become richer. Big difference. One focuses on appearance, the other focuses on ownership. And ownership wins almost every time. But there is another layer most people never see, a psychological layer. We naturally want social approval. We want people to notice us. We want validation. We want status. And companies understand this perfectly. That is why billions of dollars are spent every year on marketing, not because products are better, but because emotions are powerful. People often buy feelings, not products. The feeling of success, the feeling of belonging, the feeling of importance, the feeling of being admired. Once you understand this, you start seeing money differently. You stop asking, can I afford this? And start asking, will this improve my future? That question alone can save thousands of dollars and over decades, potentially millions. Because wealth is rarely built through one giant decision. It is built through hundreds of small decisions, repeated consistently, day after day, year after year. And the people who understand that principle usually end up in a completely different financial position than everyone else. But this creates an even bigger question. If building wealth is so simple, then why do most people never do it? The answer lies in a hidden psychological battle happening inside every human mind. And that battle might be controlling your financial future more than you realize.
The biggest obstacle to wealth is not a lack of money, it is a lack of control. Every day, your brain is fighting two battles. One part wants comfort today, the other wants freedom tomorrow. Most people choose comfort,
and they keep choosing it, again and again and again, until years disappear. The problem is not one bad decision. The problem is thousands of small decisions that slowly shape your future. Because success is rarely dramatic, and failure is rarely dramatic either. Both happen quietly, one habit at a time, one choice at a time, one day at a time. This is why financial freedom looks boring from the outside. There are no fireworks, no secret shortcuts, no magic formula, just discipline, patience, and consistency. The people who win financially are usually not smarter than everyone else. They simply stay in the game longer. They avoid emotional decisions. They understand delayed gratification, and they allow time to work for them. Because time is the most powerful wealth-building tool on earth. Money can be lost and earned again. Time cannot. That is why the most successful investors protect their time more than their money. They understand something most people never realize. Wealth is not the goal. Freedom is. Freedom to choose where you work. Freedom to choose how you spend your day. Freedom to spend time with the people you love. And freedom from financial stress. Money is simply the tool. Freedom is the destination. So the next time you make a financial decision, ask yourself one question. Is this helping my future self or hurting my future self? Because that single question can change your life. And maybe, years from now, you will look back and realize your financial future changed the moment you started thinking differently about money. If you enjoyed this breakdown of wealth psychology, subscribe to Wealth Maps. Because here, we don't just talk about money, we talk about the mindset behind money. And once you understand the psychology, the map becomes much clearer.